Coming up on Valley View News, the results of the midterm elections and what they may mean for you. Plus, our ongoing series on the cost of going to college ends with the high price of transportation. And Canoga Park Elementary holds a play to promote healthy eating habits.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Lucas Wiggins.
And I'm Brian Bruman.
We're going to take some time here to review the results of the California propositions.
We'll also take a look at the results of some very important races.
Proposition 10 was rejected and would have expanded local government's ability to impose rent control on residential properties. 10's failure keeps the Costa-Hawkins Rental Housing Act in place. It keeps local governments from enacting rent control on certain buildings occupied after February 1st, 1995, and any housing exempted before February 1st, 1995. The Costa-Hawkins Act also allows landlords to increase rent to market prices when a tenant moves out.
Proposition 6 failed at the polls. It was supposed to repeal the gas tax that had already been paying for road projects across the state. It also would have made it harder for the state legislature to pass fuel tax increases in the future. By rejecting 6, California voters are showing a priority for funding infrastructure work. Reports of crumbling and unsafe bridges and roads continue. This is something echoed nationally, infrastructure being one of the few topics that both national political parties talk about as an area where they can come together.
Proposition 2 passed. It lets the state use up to $140 million a year from mental health funds to repay up to $2 billion in bonds. These bonds would fund housing for the homeless with mental illnesses. Proposition 4 also passed. It authorizes $1.5 billion in bonds for construction for at least 13 children's hospitals. Proposition 5 failed. It would have removed certain transfer requirements for homeowners over 55. Severely disabled homeowners, or people who have contaminated or disaster-destroyed property.
Proposition 7 passed. It lets California stay in permanent daylight savings time if the federal government allows it by an act of Congress. Proposition 8 didn't pass. It would have required dialysis clinics to issue refunds for revenue made above a certain amount. While Proposition 11 did pass, that means emergency ambulance crews must stay on call during work breaks. They'll still be paid during those breaks.
Proposition 12 passed. It enforces minimum requirements for confining certain farm animals. It prohibits the sale of meat and egg products from animals confined in ways not approved by law. The measure will cost up to $10 million a year. Measure W passed. It creates a special tax for land parcels in the Los Angeles County Flood Control District. The tax is 2.5 cents per square foot of impermeable area. The tax revenue will pay for water projects, infrastructure, and programs to capture, treat, and recycle rainwater.
Gavin Newsom is California's next governor. He beat Republican John Cox with 59% of the vote to 41%. Newsom was California's lieutenant governor for the last 2 terms. While Governor Jerry Brown was somewhat restrained using California's funds in surplus, Newsom's campaign promised to use money more aggressively to tackle tough issues. He wants to improve state-sponsored health care and add universal preschool. The housing crisis is one of the biggest challenges he'll face as governor. The rejection of Prop 10, which would have expanded rent control, might make it harder to make housing more affordable.
Senator Dianne Feinstein defeated her fellow Democrat opponent, Kevin De Leon, in California's U.S. Senate race. This will be Feinstein's 5th term. Feinstein said she wants the Senate to return to more bipartisan and civil politics. She's been California senator since 1992. Congressman Brad Sherman won the midterm election against Republican Mark Reed. Sherman, a Democrat, represents California's 30th district and has been congressman since 2013. District 30 covers the western San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles County and the eastern semi-hills of Ventura County.
Early voting numbers increased greatly for these midterms. Nearly 33 million people voted before Election Day. Voters under 30, more than any other age group, had the largest increase in early voting turnout. Many of these younger voters say they want to see change, and they'll do the work required to stay informed.
It can be a very difficult decision sometimes, but like I said, that's where the research comes in and just knowing what you're voting for and being confident in that.
I think there needs to be more peace and more conversations and less debates about matters so that we could progress a little bit more forward.
In the midterms, the Democrats took over the House of Representatives. The Democrat Party now has 26 seats that were once controlled by the Republicans. The new Democrat Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell both reacted to the results.
Solutions that bring us together because we have all had enough of division.
He worked very hard, drew large crowds, and I think it clearly had a positive impact.
The last time the Democrats controlled the House was in 2009 when former President Obama entered office.
Far more women ran in these midterms than ever before. 270 women ran for either a seat in Congress or to be a state governor. There have been many firsts already. The first time Muslim American women have been elected to Congress, Ilhan Omar won a seat in the House representing Minnesota. She was a refugee from Somalia. This is also the first time Native American women have been elected to Congress. Nancy Pelosi, a woman familiar with the position of power, will return to her spot as Speaker of the House of Representatives.
CSUN political science professor Jane Bays tells us how a Democrat-controlled House could potentially affect policy change.
Could save medical care. They could do something about medical care, which has been a campaign issue. One thing that Obama put forward, the Obamacare, getting health for existing conditions. I think there's a majority in the country who would like that.
Democrats currently lead the House with 220 seats.
The migrant caravan has reached Mexico City. They've been placed in a large sports complex on the edge of the city and given food and water. Mexico City isn't the most direct route to the U.S., but caravan organizers say people are exhausted after 3 weeks of walking. So many chose to make the detour to Mexico's capital. Authorities say by this week, many walkers will be in Mexico City. It's only 650 miles from the U.S. border. The caravan is something the candidates in the U.S. midterm elections were watching.
Last Thursday, controversial flyers were posted at American River Community College near Sacramento. The flyer said, "It's okay to be white." They caused outrage among some students who called the flyers racist. CSUN professor and attorney Elizabeth Blakey says there are things a school can do in such a situation.
We have to look at what regulations you have on a public campus of speech messages. So all viewpoints are allowed. What could be allowed, not based on the content of the message, but perhaps the time, place, and manner of the message, is to say that posters can't go up in certain locations, or that posters have to have a date on them so that we can know when we can take them down.
American River school officials took down the posters hours after they were hung.
Internet shopping claims another retail victim. Lowe's announced they're closing 51 stores in the U.S. and Canada. In a strategy becoming more common, Lowe's says it'll close less profitable stores to focus on better performing stores. Lowe's once owned the Osh hardware stores. Lowe's CEO Marvin Ellison made the decision earlier this year to close all Osh stores. He wants to focus the business on home builders and construction companies.
For some, college transportation expenses can be higher than expected. College Choice, which does research on colleges, says students should plan to spend at least $1,000 a year for transportation. Gas and parking permits factor into that budget. The National Parking Association says permit costs at U.S. colleges average about $635 per year. A survey commissioned by Metrolink found 90% of SoCal college students would consider using public transportation over a car, if it would fit their transportation needs.
In the final installment of our ongoing series on the college price tag, we spoke to a CSUN commuter student. He tells us the struggles he faces commuting to campus. Valley View News reporter Jesus Mendez tells us more.
Part of being a college student requires commuting to school. Jorge Duarte is no exception.
Well, it's time consuming. I have to wake up by 5:30 in the morning.
He's majoring in psychology and says being a returning student is difficult, especially when he has no financial support.
I pay for my own classes and everything.
He commutes daily from Lancaster to school and says it can get expensive. On average, he drives 500 miles a week and spends $100 on gas. Duarte says keeping a close eye on his car can prevent additional expenses on repairs.
You have to invest in good tires and, your oil change.
But those are not the only problems Duarte faces. The school parking permit increased 15% over the last 3 years.
Yeah, I think it was $207. I think it's very expensive.
Ken Primo manages support services for the associate students and says there are programs available for students to use.
Some of the other programs that they've started would be Zimride, which would be a carpooling type of program. There's also Zipcar, which is an hourly car rental service.
He says the ultimate goal for the school is for students to commute less stressful. Duarte hopes that the school can acknowledge the challenges students face every day.
Help out the students. We're the ones here every day, and do the most you can to accommodate us.
The university is building a new student parking lot that will count with 1,200 new spaces. They also want to encourage students to take advantage of the resources already available on campus. In Northridge, Jesus Mendez, Valley View News.
A Champions for Change program that started here at CSUN is helping promote healthy eating in elementary schools. Here's Valley View News reporter Isabel Ochoa with her story.
Students at Canoga Park Elementary School put on a play called MyPlate, which promotes healthy eating. Principal Roger Avila says MyPlate benefits children's lives.
If this can influence them, I think it could influence how our parents are cooking for them, because as a Latino, I know that our culture suffers from a high rate of diabetes.
The play wants to fight childhood obesity. Fourth graders were featured in the musical. Some got to show off their dance moves. Helen Butleroff-Leahy, director and producer of MyPlate, tells how she came up with the idea for the musical.
A mentor that I was taking classes with said, why don't, you've got a dance background, why don't you come up with some idea? So I did. I came up with this musical idea, the plot, what would happen in the show, some of the musical numbers, and then I realized it would be much more beneficial if the musical was in rap.
Running, biking, swimming, skating,
Some children have poor eating habits, with many fast food restaurants right around the corner. Fast food increases the risk of childhood obesity. Romel Rayo, co-writer, composer, and actor, says children's dietary habits have changed over the years.
We have a series of health problems that we should not have. Hypertension, diabetes, all, high blood pressure, all kinds of things.
The play was sponsored by the Champions for Change program at CSUN's Marilyn Magrum Center. Annette Basnilian is executive director of the Marilyn Magrum Center for Food Science, Nutrition, and Dietetics.
Principals have been telling us how children are coming to school eating more fruits and bringing some of the changes in some of the snacks they're bringing to school.
The Marilyn Magrum Center is one of 24 programs funded by Los Angeles County that provides nutritional information to targeted areas. Meanwhile, the center currently provides health information to 13 schools and community centers across the valley. In Canoga Park, I'm Isabel Ochoa for Valley View News.
Los Angeles rapper David Sebastian performed on the Metro for a good cause. Valley View reporter Catherine Molina has more on the story.
Last Train to Nowhere was an impromptu concert organized by a Los Angeles rapper to support the homeless. David Sebastian promoted on social media he'd be performing on the Metro in exchange for donations. Coordinator and press liaison Roma Khan gathered donations, which included clothes and blankets.
We're basically here for David Sebastian, and he put this event together, and we're collecting blankets for the homeless, and we're going to make all these donations, and we just did a live show on the Metro train.
People like Latrell Swain and Maria Maloya rode the train to support the event.
I think that's great. I think there's a lot of evil going on in the world, and I think he's spreading a lot of positivity, and we need more people like him, you know what I'm saying?
David Sebastian says he was inspired to bring something new and positive to Los Angeles.
It was just about bringing people together and love and raising the vibration and doing something for a good cause and getting stuff to donate to Skid Row and really just bringing an experience to LA.
All items will be donated to #LunchOnMe, an organization built to empower and support people living on Skid Row. In North Hollywood, I'm Catherine Molina, Valley View News.
Here's Valley View's Daria Hariri with entertainment news. Daria, what's going on?
Thanks, Brian. Rihanna says she doesn't want her music playing at Trump's rallies. Washington Post reporter Philip Rucker tweeted that Rihanna's song, Don't Stop the Music, was playing at Trump's rally, and everyone was loving it. Well, it didn't take long for Rihanna to spot the tweet and respond. She tweeted back, quote, "Not for much longer. Me nor my people would ever be at or around one of those tragic rallies. So thanks for the heads up, Philip," end quote. 2 years ago, a company created a way for musicians to opt out if they don't want their songs used at political rallies. Los Angeles County Coroner's Office reports rapper Mac Miller died from a mix of fentanyl and cocaine. Toxicology results showed he also had alcohol in his system. On September 7th, the rapper was discovered unresponsive in his home. At the time, his death was labeled an accident. So, I'm going to tell you all what you really, really want to hear. The Spice Girls are reuniting, but with one less spice. The Four Spices appeared in a spoof video without Posh Spice Victoria Beckham as they announced their United Kingdom reunion tour. The group split in 1998 after becoming one of the biggest girl groups ever in the UK. Tour tickets go on sale this Saturday, November 10th. Saturday Night Live star Alec Baldwin was arrested last Friday following a dispute over a parking spot. Baldwin was charged with assault and harassment. A 49-year-old man sustained an injury to the left jaw and was taken to a local area hospital. Baldwin, who is best known for his portrayal of Trump on SNL, is expected to appear in court soon. Well, it's been a fun ride, guys, but I'm going to see if I can replace Posh Spice for their new tour. I'm Dari Hariri, and that's all your entertainment news for now. I'll see you soon.
More to come on Valley View News. 8 nations are exempted from sanctions while 1 country remains on the sanctions.
And the Lakers take on the Toronto Raptors without their star player on the court. Stay with us.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, "Read your lease. No pets allowed." My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
CSUN's campus newspaper, the Sundial, has a few stories in the works.
Here's the Sundial sports editor, Justin Vigil, with details.
Thanks, Brian and Lucas. Right now on the Sundial, we have a story about the men's basketball season opener. The Matadors just opened up their season against the New Mexico Lobos. You can catch a full recap of that with stats and interviews with head coach Mark Gottfried and assistant coaches Jim Herrick and Mo Williams, all online on the Sundial website. We also have a story about the Day of the Dead. Metro recently put on a festival in LA honoring members of family members who have passed away. And also we have extended our deadline for Arts and Lit edition. You can submit or send any questions to ane@csun.edu. That's it for me in the Sundial. Back to you guys.
It's time for international news now. In our digital media center, Amaya Milan Wright has some news from the Middle East and elsewhere.
Thank you, Brian. The killing of Saudi journalists complicated financial ties between Japan's SoftBank and Saudi Arabia. Prince Mohammed bin Salman invested nearly half of $93 billion SoftBank needed to create its Vision Fund. Bank analysts are now concerned about the investments because of their connections to Saudi Arabia. Masa Son, SoftBank CEO, said no more Saudi cash will be accepted until the truth behind the journalist's murder is found. He says the incident shouldn't have ever happened. The U.S. renewed sanctions against Iran. The Trump administration says these are the toughest sanctions thus far. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says Iran can either do a turnaround from their current course of action or watch their economy crumble. The U.S. issued sanction waivers for 8 countries to continue buying Iranian oil without any restrictions.
Sanctions are cruel, are against the international law, are against agreements, are against UN resolutions.
Iran's leader Rouhani says they'll break the sanctions with honor. White House National Security Advisor John Bolton says even more sanctions are coming. Investigators say the Indonesian airliner Lion Air Flight 16 was intact when it crashed into the ocean. They say the plane didn't explode in the air as some thought. Divers continue to search for the plane's missing black box with a cockpit voice recorder. The black box will help figure out the last moments before the crash. Europe is celebrating the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. Thousands of torches were lit at the Tower of London to mark the anniversary. Germany's foreign ministry says bells will ring at midday, commemorating more than 17 million victims of World War I. The torches will stay lit nightly until Remembrance Day on November 11th. That's all for international news. Now back to you in the studio.
Now let's get the latest on sports with Brandon Benitez. What's going on with the Lakers, Brandon?
Thanks, Lucas. The Toronto Raptors came into the Staples Center without star forward Kawhi Leonard to play the Lakers. Raptors come out firing on all cylinders as Pascal Siakam drives to the basket and kicks it out to Serge Ibaka for the wide-open three. Ibaka continues his assault as he catches the pass and drives by the defender for an easy dunk, making him a perfect 8 for 8 to start the night. In the second quarter, LeBron James tries to energize his team as he drives to the lane and converts on a tough layup with the foul to bring the score to 50-23 Raptors. The Raptors continue to pour it on, though. Danny Green leads a fast break that leads to another easy Ibaka dunk. Ibaka ended with a career-high 34 points shooting, 15 for 17, and adding 10 boards as well. The Kawhi-less Raptors never let it get close and beat the Lakers 121-107. Magic Johnson said before the game that Luke Walton is the coach and would remain so unless something drastic happened. The Rams were looking to stay as the NFL's only undefeated team as they take on the New Orleans Saints. LA's down 35-17 coming out of halftime. Third down in the red zone, Jared Goff steps up in the pocket and finds Malcolm Brown. Brown somehow tiptoes around the sideline, reaching for the goal line and scores. Rams trail by 8. Their defense gets a stop, and LA makes them pay for it. Fourth quarter, Rams in Saints territory. Goff throws to a wide-open Cooper Kupp, who takes it 41 yards and scores. They go for 2 and come back to tie the game at 35. But back come the Saints. They kick a field goal, putting them up by 3. 4 minutes left in the game. Drew Brees floats it over the top to Michael Thomas, who runs 72 yards for a touchdown. New Orleans snaps LA's win streak. They win 45-35. Shifting over, the Seattle Seahawks host the LA Chargers. Second quarter, Chargers up by 5. Mike Williams spins out of a tackle and finds the end zone to go up 19-7. Fast forward to the fourth quarter, Russell Wilson tries leading the comeback.
Blocked by Brown, intercepted, picked off, Desmond King to the house.
The defense with a big-time play, they lead by 15. The Seahawks rally to be down by 8 going into the final drive. Wilson buys some time and finds David Moore, but the pass gets tipped for an incompletion. Chargers hold on and win a close one, 25-17. The Chargers win their 5th straight game and look to keep that streak going. They host the Oakland Raiders next. Week 10 of college football kicks off with number 1 Alabama taking on their rival school, number 3 LSU. First quarter, Alabama quarterback Tua Tagovailoa takes a snap, fakes right before throwing it to Henry Ruggs for a 15-yard touchdown. They miss the extra point but lead 6-0. Third quarter, the Crimson Tide's up by 16. Tagovailoa takes a snap, then runs it in for 44 yards for the touchdown, putting them up 22-0. Alabama adds another TD in the fourth. They complete the shutout and win 29-0. Number 6, Georgia, taking on number 9, Kentucky. Georgia's up by 21 in the fourth. Kentucky quarterback Terry Wilson takes the snap and finds running back Asim Rose for the 31-yard touchdown. Georgia goes on to beat Kentucky 34-17. Lastly, number 5, Michigan, taking on number 14, Penn State. Penn State quarterback Tommy Stevens takes a snap, looking to throw, but gets picked by Wolverine defensive back Brandon Watson. He returns it to the house for the 62-yard pick 6. This puts Michigan up 27-0. Fourth quarter now, Michigan near the goal line. Quarterback Shea Patterson takes a snap and hands it off to Chris Evans for the 1-yard score. Michigan up 34-0. Penn State gets one late but loses 42-7. This is Michigan's 8th win in a row. Floyd Mayweather will exit retirement to fight Japanese kickboxer Tenshin Nasukawa. They'll be fighting in Japan on New Year's Eve. Mayweather and Nasukawa announced their fight during a YouTube live stream. The rules and compensation haven't been finalized yet. Rizin chairman Nobuyuki Sakakibara and Mayweather both spoke about his opponent.
Once we knew that Mr. Mayweather is going to be on the Rising Ring on New Year's Eve, we thought of who the appropriate opponent would be. And there's only one man, there's only one fighter that we could think of, and that was Tenshin Nasukawa.
I think that he's young, very strong, very fast, and he's undefeated, so it's obvious he's been doing something right.
The 20-year-old Japanese native is 27-0. Mayweather still plans to fight Manny Pacquiao in a boxing rematch next year in the spring. That's all for sports. Back to you guys.
Coming up on Valley View News, FedEx is bumping up their shipping fee.
Also, Amazon Prime will be offering a deal for the holidays. Stay with us.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Eva Marie smoked 12,000 packs of cigarettes over 15 years. She quit, and now there's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. No matter how much you smoked, early detection could save you. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
SpaceX's Starman Roadster has reached a new planet.
Here's Melanie Rosales with social media, tech, and health news.
Thanks, guys. The FDA approved a new medication that's 10 times more powerful than morphine. A new opioid tablet called Disuvia will be given by healthcare providers to patients. The advocacy group Public Citizen says the FDA is endangering people by approving a super strong opioid. FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb on the opioid crisis.
The problem is we have this legacy of a lot of addiction associated with the past activities, and we're still seeing too much utilization. I think that's fueling too much new addiction.
Disuvia won't be in pharmacies for outpatient use. It can't be used for more than 72 hours. SpaceX's Starman Roadster has passed Mars. It's reaching the farthest distance away from the sun and won't be back to Earth for a very long time. According to the website tracking Roadster, it won't reappear near Earth until 2020. Even then, it will be 32 million miles away. It's also expected to get closer to Mars on October of that year. The closest it'll get to Earth won't be until 2091. Twitter deleted thousands of accounts that were allegedly discouraging people from voting. Most of these accounts pretended to be created by Democrats. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee brought the accounts to Twitter's attention. There's still no details on what these accounts look like or how they might have swayed voters. Twitter believes the networks for the accounts are in the U.S. All accounts were removed within the last 2 months. The Democratic National Committees thanked Twitter for taking steps to make sure voters were getting correct and timely information for Election Day. Amazon will be offering free shipping for the holidays. It's an effort to add new Prime members and boost sales. Last year, people who didn't have Prime had to spend $25 or more to get free shipping. Amazon says they will be waiving the minimum purchase amount this week to give customers faster delivery options. Prime members will get the perks of having more than 3 million items eligible for same-day delivery. That's all I have for social media, tech, and health news. Brian and Lucas, back to you.
Thanks, Melanie. An Arizona woman decided to celebrate her 106th birthday in an unusual way. Marta's jeweled painter celebrated by going to Taco Bell. She had an enchilada and a taco. Painter talked about what life is like at the age of 106.
What's it like to be 106? I don't walk as good.
Happy birthday, Martis. That's all for us at Valley View News. Thank you for watching. I'm Lucas Wiggins.
And I'm Brian Baruman. For news any time of day, go to our website, sundial.csun.edu. See you next week.